I hope everybody's having a good night. Me and Tardis been hanging out for a little bit here. We've been smoking. Um, but yeah, I just like to remind everyone that is here. Please feel free to comment in the chat. And if you do want to turn your mic off and come on and say hi with Tardis and have a chit chat with us, please feel free to do so. That's kind of why we do this in the lounge. If someone does have like a timely question, maybe I'm missing the chat. I know there was a few people in here that told me they had a few questions for Tardis, so I'll be trying to keep an eye on that since we don't got the cameras up. I don't gotta look at Tardis's pretty face. I can just kind of sit in the lounge a little bit. But all right, everybody, welcome. Uh, Refoliate America, Thursday, sometime in 2022. Time can get a little funky with our guest tonight. I know he is a guest from the future. He comes with knowledge from the future, and he will help us get refoliated. We had a great episode last week with Levin Hoko. I know he's kind of a guest of honor tonight. It's really exciting to see him hop on, and I don't really think there's somebody better to follow it up than Tardis. Tardis, are you still with me?
Still with you, brother.
Okay, welcome, man. Thank you for coming on. How are you?
I am amazing. Thank you for having me.
How's the edible bag? Are we gonna do some edibles tonight?
Yes,
Do you want to have
we are
some
definitely
edibles
gonna do
before
some
we get
edibles.
going?
You say the word when to start, and I'll start munching them, and then it takes about 45 minutes for them to kick in.
Oh, about 45 minutes. Cool. I'll make sure to eat two then. I got a few over here. These edibles were mostly made from the goop. We're trying to refoliate America with the goop. If you know, you know. Please join the Goop Lounge chat in the Growers Odyssey server. Big shout out to Graybeard for running that, and big shout out to Levin Hoko as well with the NW47 server.
Love
Um,
NW47.
yeah, I had a lot of great chats over there. Beautiful work, beautiful atmosphere, and it couldn't be a better community here on Discord with the live video chats and cannabis related and even otherwise too. I mean, so many people they'd sit here and talk about their kids and parenting and things like that, man. Just a little bit of everything, maybe even Bigfoot, right? We get into a little bit more. But we'll try to stay on track today. Tardis, I want everyone to get to know you a little bit. When I got to know you, I heard a lot about the Vortex and Subcool, and you seemed like a great source for a lot of genetic information. And you sent me like a list of like 300 or 350 different seeds you had and things like that. And everyone kind of knew a little bit about you. And I was hearing how generous you were with some of the packs that you gave out. I know Country always tells me, I think you hooked him up with a few really cool packs, man. And I just really like to welcome you on. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about you and what you got going on right now.
I tell you right now at this very moment, I'm thinking I got to eat this handful of capsules. They're THC capsules infused into MCT oil that I made using my Ardent. Love the Ardent. Great toy. Expensive, but worth it. I'm gonna eat this right now. You want to join me in some edibles first? That way it kicks in
Yeah,
about 45 minutes.
I was just munching. I went a little long with the intro. I was a little parched, so I'm munching down with you, brother. But yeah, we could be here for a while, guys. We got Tardis. I always wanted to say I wanted to do Tardis, and I wanted to show with Tardis on edibles. Now we're
You
getting
got it.
Tardis on. This is gonna be good.
Yes. Yeah, so what I got going on right now, I'm working with a groundbreaking seed group. It's three of us. It's Scrug710. You can find him on Instagram, Scrug710. Twisted Trichomes, who everyone knows through Discord. He's a great guy.
Everyone, yeah.
They both are, and myself. And our first project was my passion project, which is bringing back Vortex or resurrecting Vortex from the edge of death. We bought up the last of the packs of Vortex from GeneticSupply.com, who were hired by Subcool originally to make the seeds for Subcool to sell under the TGA Subcool name. But after the fires in California, this is the story I understand. After the fires in California, Subcool did not have the money to pay them for the work they did in producing all the seeds for them. So Subcool made a deal with them and said, you can sell those seeds and keep the profits, just you can't make more. So they've been selling off the seeds that they made ever since, and we bought up the last of the Vortex that we could find that were available online.
Wow.
We're now using those Vortex seeds. Still got a lot more, doing several batches to make F2s and to select from the best possible combinations of males and females we can get. Make the best possible F2s we can get. Test them, make sure they're solid. And then our plan is to even though we're selling the F2s now, it's because there was more of a demand for Vortex. And Genetic Supply came to us and said, you guys had the last of the Vortex. We know what you're up to. Do you want to sell some? And we went for it. We decided, why wait until, 5 years from now when we're done with the project? When people can jump in, come along for the ride and literally, go in the directions we're going and literally join us on this venture with Vortex if they want to. And we want to do is our goal is we're doing three separate lines of F3s from original F1 stock. Twisted Trichomes is doing one, Scruggs is doing one, and I'm doing one at the moment right now. And we're taking those three to F3, and then we're going to select the best two that go together. So we have some selection in case something goes wrong, and we will combine them to make an F4 with a fake hybrid vigor added to it. A hybrid vigor, but not because the two strains are from different cultivars, but rather different lines of the same cultivar that were bred for different things.
And what was it that maybe originally brought you to the Vortex? Because I know you've kind of told me your list, right? It's kind of like potency,
Oh yeah.
taste, and really potency is at number one. So you think Vortex is kind of where that potency is at for you,
I
or
wouldn't
do you
say it's
think
the most potent of the strains I've tried, or if TGA subcool strains. I'm a huge fan of TGA subcool. TGA subcool strains, I would say Agent Orange or Jack the Ripper are probably more potent. However, the high of Vortex is a hell of a lot more euphoric, in my opinion. It's stronger in a different way. It's not as powerful, it's not as confusing, but it's a lot more euphoric.
yeah? And what kind of selection are you going for in your line? Is it mainly based off of what you smoked? Are you going for a certain structure? What kind of things are you selecting for?
Well, Scruggs went with his going for structure. Twisted Trichomes is using his to find the most offensive smelling one. He wants it to be pungent and rotten and just really punish your nose when you smell it in a good way, in a very good way. Um, I want the sweet mango flavor. I want that sweet mango candy. I want my weed to give me diabetes. I want it to be so sweet. People love gas. I respect that. People love skunk. I respect that. People love grape. They love all kinds. People love all kinds of flavors. Blueberry.
Yeah.
And blueberry is wonderful, but I love sweet candy, or as the great Lemon Hoko says, Fifi weed.
What about lemon? Do you like a little bit of lemon too? I feel like lemon is kind of sweet sometimes. Maybe you can get like a sweet lemon.
I find personally, I like lemon, but I find lemon itself to be it feels too ordinary to me. I don't know why. I don't know why.
Yeah, you need a little mix up in there. But
Yeah,
that's
I
cool,
need.
man. I
But if
appreciate
the
you
lemon is
talking about
sweet,
Vortex a little bit.
it
What were you
depends how
saying?
sweet it is. If it's a very sweet lemon, I'm in.
Yeah. So is that a groundbreaking seed company? Is that you three guys, or is
That's
that
correct. That is
so
absolutely correct.
how does that work? Kind of coming up with your own seed company because you've been a home grower, right? So you're kind of home grower.
Correct.
I know you work in a commercial grow too, allegedly.
I do. I do. I work on the flower team at a commercial facility, one of the largest in Arizona.
Wow. So maybe you have a little bit of insight kind of into maybe how some of these strains are coming into these facilities and how they're ran versus maybe how a home grower would run it. And I don't know, maybe
Absolutely, absolutely. The commercial market is very different. Now, I'm not saying that every oh my god, Twisted Trichomes is here. Awesome.
Oh,
Welcome, brother.
hello, welcome. Good to hear you.
Awesome to see you. Yeah, he's
Good.
part of this interview for sure. He's groundbreaking seed group as well. He can help keep me on the right path so I'm not being one third of the company going ranting about one direction.
Yeah, I barely made it here. Just barely got in the door, so that's good.
what's up, Twisted?
How's it going, guys?
Welcome, man. Hope you're having a good week. Yeah,
So
we're trying to get refoliated over here. Me and Tardis are munching on edibles. We're talking Vortex, man. I hope you're having a good night.
Yes, absolutely. I've been sitting on the concentrates, so flower rosin tonight.
Cool.
but back to the topic real quick. I would say that there are some major differences between being a breeder for the corporate coming environment, and that corporate environment is going to dominate. It will be big. And being in the market breeding for the home grower, you have to have different priorities. I like breeding for the home grower. I like breeding for the guy who's either growing just for himself or even if he's growing to sell it, this is the strain he does not sell. That's what I want to breed for. The strain the person keeps. That's what I want to breed for. But I mean, uh, the home grower mainly because when it comes to corporate cannabis, they need three things. They need it to smell good. With post COVID, that's not as important, but it needs to smell good. It needs to yield well, and it needs to have bag appeal because they need to be able to make a lot of it in a short amount of time, and they need to be able to sell it because it looks good in the bag at the store. So if you can breed for those three things, you're golden. As long and of course, bonuses, it doesn't hermy, it doesn't get stressed, it can take a feeding, it grows fast, it finishes quickly, 9 weeks. Um, yeah, you have to if you want to be in that market, that's what you should breed for because that is what they're looking for. That's what they'll do business with. That's what they'll buy. But I am more concerned with potency. More important than potency is the type of high. There are so many different types of highs you can have from the different cultivars of cannabis. Um, they all
And
affect you so
how do
differently.
you think you can test that? Maybe as a new user or somebody maybe looking to expand their palate a little bit. Do you have to smoke a strain for like a week to kind of know what it's
No, no.
about? Or is it
At
something, can you
least
test like in one day, you can test multiple strains in one
Oh yeah.
day?
Not really. You need that to truly test a strain. You need to have it pure. You need to have just that strain, just that cultivar, just so you can. Because you might maybe you have this cultivar and you smoke it and it does one thing and you go, wow, okay, that's what it does. Then you immediately smoke another strain. Let's say the combination of the two highs gives you a third high that is unlike either individual high. You have no idea what the high of that one strain is like.
Yeah, I've done that before. I like mixing weed together. It does give you a
Oh,
different
I,
kind of
I
high.
love mixing weed.
Same
It gives you a
thing.
different high, but for judging the
Yeah.
specific cultivars to see what their highs do, you need to have them on a straight. See, what's it called? I don't smoke before I go to work. I don't smoke when I'm at work. I work 4 10-hour shifts. Um, so I wake up at 5, I wake up at 5 a.m., get ready, head out the door, don't smoke, go through the
Wow.
10-hour day, don't smoke, drive home, don't smoke, get home, take care of like watering things I need to do, then I smoke. So my
Okay.
palate is clean, and I can choose a different strain every time from what I've grown, and I can just say, okay, what does this strain do? What does Lemon's Blueberry do one day? The next day, what does Duke Diamond's C99 times Vortex do?
What does Lemon's Blueberry do? Is that the sativa
Lemon's
blueberry?
Blueberry is absolutely Lemon's Blueberry. Let me tell you, the pheno I grew is absolutely pure euphoria. Sweet flavor. I love sweet weed. Sweet blueberry flavor,
Oh,
and it is pure euphoria, unencumbered by stoniness or by dragging you down. You are up, you are fine. You're just in a way better mood than you were before you smoked it.
yeah, the Let Us Grow. He always tells me it's the Holiday Inn weed because he's, man, I slept at Holiday Inn last night. I feel great after you smoke lemon
Exactly. You
sativa
smoke that,
blueberry.
you're gonna have a good
Yeah,
day. You're gonna have a
that
very
sounds
good
cool,
day.
man. But
Yeah.
Tardis, so is the Vortex one of your first breeding projects? Have you pollinated other
I've
things
done a
in the
lot
past,
of
or kind of
pollen chucking in my
how did
time.
that get started? Okay, when did that start? When did you start growing?
2010. I started growing 2008. I know, pretty late, but 2008. I fell in love with it immediately. I basically, long story short, I had some friends, and they were like, you should get your marijuana license. And I'm like, really? And so they told me all about it and how they got it and this, that, and the other. They go, tell you what, if you get your marijuana license, your cannabis license, we'll grow for you. I'm like, that's a sweet deal. Okay. You'll grow from the weed for me? Great. So I went with them. We flew to another island. I was on Kauai at the time. Flew to the Big Island, I believe. I went and saw this doctor, Dr. Bako, the actual name. And he, what's it called, checked us out, talked to us, did all the medical stuff, and then gave us the license. And so we flew back to Kauai, and I told him, so how much weed am I going to get from you guys? You got my license, what? And he's like, well, we'll give you a quarter a month because they wanted to sell it and make a profit. And I'm like, a quarter a month? I went, F you guys. I'm going to figure this shit out myself. And I have the license. I'm going to figure this shit out. And so I went and I started growing. And I went online. I went to rollitup.org and I went to, you know, chat rooms on IRC about growing and stuff like that. And I just tried to read books, tried to get as much knowledge as I could while I was doing it. And the first grow, it worked. I mean, it grew, it flowered, everything was great. I was a terrible grower, but the plants did okay. I mean, it was Hawaii. Hawaii is the perfect environment for it. Long story
Yeah,
short, I just fell in love with growing it. It became my passion. It's just I have such love for this because it's not just some new thing that people are doing. I mean, this is an act that human beings have been engaging in for like 250,000 years. This is in our instincts. This is bred into our very species. Hell,
our
we have the
chemistry.
receptors for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting, man.
Being involved
I
in
think the
cannabis,
Chinese had a word for it. They called it ma or something like that. As in, even if you look at like with the Roman times used in the courtrooms, the burning of, plants to calm tensions in the courtroom, things like that.
Captain Future, I can answer this. He has a question. What is the reason I smoke? What are any medical reasons? Here it is. On the piece of paper, it's because of my back pain. But the medical reason I smoke is because I used to be 350 pounds most of my life until I was 32. I went in, had the gastric bypass where they literally go in and cut out 90% of your stomach and remove it. Well, it's not exactly the easiest ride once you don't have a real stomach. It's not. I mean, you get sick regularly. It's hard to hold food down. You have to eat specific foods because if you eat junk, you don't get the energy you need to sustain yourself. Uh, Smoking not only helps me to eat without getting sick, which isn't covered under most medical coverages, but it helps me to digest. So I've noticed a huge assistance in digesting when I smoke weed, my food.
Yeah, it almost like kickstarts your metabolism, right? I think you were kind of
So
talking about some of the
yeah,
hunger hormones and things like that.
yeah, the
There's
ghrelin, my
definitely
stomach no longer
a
makes sense.
metabolic impact with cannabinoids for sure.
Absolutely. They actually did a study and they found
Maybe
that,
kind of like coffee would too, right? Like people drink coffee in the morning, they kind of get, maybe I don't know, not exactly the same, but similar.
all right, Lemon Hoko's hitting me with the hard question.
Uh-oh, lemon.
Yep. How do I select my males? That,
I wanted to ask that a little bit earlier. We were
mm,
gonna wait, but I guess we can get into it now. Wait, who's doing the males for your project? You guys all have
we
your own
both
males?
are. Yeah, yeah.
You
Twisted is
you
doing a
and
great
Twisted
job with
and
males.
Suggs, so you're all picking your own males and running them separately. So do you guys all have a similar process in selecting males? Because I've heard a little bit about maybe
No,
each
we're
character.
we're we're each artist doing our own work, and we're kind of fusing it
Okay.
together.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess both of you are here. You guys can kind of speak to that.
Yeah. I'm really into stressing my stuff out. So other than kind of structure, and I like to pick a male that won't, flip for root bound. I like to make sure that they re-veg. Uh, um, you know, the same old stem rub, they got to get at least some sort of smell going to them. They can't just be, the controversial.
You got to
I
have the stem rub, right?
I was gonna say that, and I know people are gonna cringe, but the stem rub. I mean, the stem rub does not equal the flower smell or taste. However, the stem rub can give you ideas of the direction it's going, whether it's going to be sweet or gassy or stinky or light or not very pungent. You can tell certain aspects that are parallel to the smell from a stem rub.
I think so for
Yeah.
sure.
Then I'm a big
Okay,
strip.
so stem rub is part of the males, right? What kind of stem rub? Are you Twisted was looking for the acrid? Do you guys ever look at kind of the flower structure on your males at all, or maybe take a little bit closer look at some of those flowers?
Yeah, for sure. You gotta concentrate on ones that have good clusters. Um, I like if you look at some of the mills, you'll tend to see the clusters just really kind of push out and they'll really kind of start to lay over because they get so heavy. I kind of like those. I don't like the ones that are just little, you know what I mean? Like the ones that really put on uh, a lot of pollen sacs. And if you get the right ones, like if you pull them out in the sun, you can really see the trichome production on them too. So I like to kind of pull them out, put them in the sun, like take them out in the sun. You can tell which ones are really, which ones are going to be oily or not.
Hmm, interesting.
Just stress them. I like to stress plants out a lot. It's got to pass like all three R bells, and then I'll take them and stress the hell out of them. They'll go outdoors, they'll go indoors. I'll make sure they re-veg. I kind of get into stressing them because I get tired of plants that you get a bunch of cuts and they're weak cuts from people or something. I just want real good plants that I can pass around to people who don't have a hard time growing either. You know,
Oh
they
yeah.
got
So yeah, for the male to clone and re-veg nicely,
yeah.
that's cool.
I really like to stress plants out. You really get to see the weak ones and the real. You get to see the weak ones and the ones that are moody. You just stress them out, just get them out of your way.
So stem rub, the ability to re-veg, maybe some of the trichomes we're looking for in our males. Am I missing anything?
Definitely strength and vigor. I mean, absolutely. That's males can definitely offer that to the male lines, down the line.
See, I was always kind of 50-50 on that, and I haven't been growing plants for that long, but I always wondered about like the strongest and biggest one. I'm like, oh, maybe it's not the one that you want, but obviously that vigor and strength is nice though,
But
right?
you're right. Actually, more important than that is actually with males is to the yield of the flowering, because you can tell the yield of the flowering. You might have the biggest, strongest, toughest vegging plant in the world, and it might yield crap.
Yeah, and also as a tool, I keep a couple of squatty males, and then I've got one male that's kind of a stretcher, and my plan is to use him against females that are too squatty. So I'll use him as a tool. I've got some males that are actually probably undesirable for some people because they do take off a little bit, but I'm hoping to push them against maybe a Bubba, and maybe them guys will meet in the middle, where those ladies will meet. So, you know, tools. They can be tools.
Okay, so we kind of covered the male a little bit. So what about the females? So if you're looking for all of this, obviously you would need a female to match. But is there like, I guess it would all depend on your goal. Or are we just breeding for effects and potency? Are you, because I guess
Well, the
when people talk about like the Afghani and bringing in shorter plants and quicker flowering plants and things like that, I mean, these are all selections breeders are like maybe consciously making, right?
well, in
Go ahead.
I completely just lost my train of thought. I think the edibles are starting to creep in.
No,
No.
yeah, I'm running out of edibles too, but I was kind of just wondering about the females. If you look for maybe a quicker flowering
Well,
time, I've
here's
heard that to be kind of popular.
unfortunately,
I feel like all the strains now they say 8 to 9 weeks, right? Oh yeah, it's 8 to 9 weeks. Like, no, give it at least 10 weeks, right?
that's true. That's true. Well, it depends on the trichomes. I like some of subcool stuff. Like you want to get it early, like the third dimension. Not much of a yielder, but oh my god, does it smell and taste amazing? The high on it is such a sativa pure high. It's just so nice that but you don't want to take it early, but it finishes in like 7 weeks with like I don't know, 5% amber.
Yeah. So you're looking at the trichomes as the weeks are going
Yes.
on. And there's another topic that keeps coming up, and people always tell me like, "Oh, you have to harvest it at a certain time." And I was kind of wondering if you ever noticed in your harvesting process if there was a better time to pull the plant or a technique about what time, or maybe is there something you do at home and maybe in commercial it's so different. If you're taking a day, like a whole day to pull down 3 rooms, maybe you kind of have no choice. However many flower rooms you guys got going.
Currently, my flower room is not ideal. Um, it will, however, be much better in the course of the next year. I'm moving it to a different place in the house where I'll have more room to spread out. I'm actually going to put some more tents and make sure I can do the breeding properly and do it right when I make seeds. Keep clones, keep
Okay.
mothers, stuff like that.
Oh, so are you focused mainly on seed making right now? You're not really running
Correct.
for flower? Okay, I
Correct.
see.
I'm smoking seeded flower.
Uh,
I love making seeds, and I will take the. Well, I'm thinking of. Sometimes here's what I like to do. Here's what I normally used to do. I would take a bunch of vegging plants. I would separate until they showed pre-flowers of male or female. I would take the best males, what I determined were the best males, put them into the flower tent, let them flower, kill the ones that don't make the cut. The best ones, after about 2.5 weeks, so you can kind of choose which are the best ones, which are starting to yield the most, etc. And you can then take the females, put them into the flower tent, let them go for 2 weeks. Now, but this time it's 4.5 weeks, 5 weeks on the male. The female is only at 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, and you can pollinate just those two hairs that are at every node, and the four hairs at every node. Then kill the males, let the plants flower, and what you get is nugs with 4 seeds, 4 to 6 seeds at the bottom of each nug.
right.
Seedless nugs with seeds in the bottom.
Yeah, a couple for you to kind of go through and test a
Yeah,
little bit. Huh?
and people are like, "Well, it doesn't give you a lot." Well, if you're looking at doing some breeding and not just selling seeds or something, if you're looking at, just you want 200 seeds, that's a great way to get 200 seeds.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I'll take like a Safeway bag and bag up half the plant, and then I'll pollinate one half, let that sit for about an hour and a half, then kind of lightly spray it down and pull the bag off, and give her a little while, give her another hour and a half, and spray her off, and put her back in the flower room with everybody else. And then I'll get to half of it's really good smoke and half of it's just seeded out, and then I can run through those F1s and start to make a selection.
And I want to tell people out there, I have firsthand seen and smoked Twisted Trichomes' work, and he is an artist. He is amazing. He is, you guys, he's got a future ahead of him. You watch.
And I do well, and I have the luxury. I've got two 10 by 15 flower areas, and then tents and then outside stuff. Just kind of went ham.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just missing Scruggs too. Shout out to Scruggs. And
Oh, Scruggs is
he
amazing at
was
it.
kind of
Absolutely. His selection on the Vortex F2s, it was he knocked it out of the park. They're amazing. His Vortex F2s have been consistently amazing in their growing. Their structure, their flavor, everything about them.
And he can pull out some phenotypes. I tell you what, he is not shy. He gets a lot of really good. He's got a lot of really good cuts. He's holding a lot of nice cuts.
Okay, so I know Lemon talked about a little bit his salt mix. He's been using the same salt mix for a number of years. I'm not gonna give his age away or how long he's been doing that, allegedly. But do you guys kind of do the same thing where you keep a consistent mix? Do you run like flood and drain? Are you running in organic soil? I don't think
I'm
we kind of mentioned
I'm gonna
that.
sound like an amateur here, but I'm running Fox Farm Ocean Forest soil, and I'm
Yeah.
running Pura Vida, Technoflora Pura Vida, nutrients.
And I'm all Synganic right now. I'm rerun soil with Dr. Earth dry amendments, and then I babysit it with GH if I miss the marker. You know what I mean? If I didn't get enough in my soil, then I'll babysit it with GH till the end.
Yeah, I used to use fish shit, the brand fish shit in my water, in my waterings, but then I switched over to someone's recommendation, Florida Nugs' recommendation a few months ago, of this stuff called Fish Brew, and I'm giving that a try. It's my first week using it.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool, man. Yeah, we were all kind of interested, and I know Erie on here, he was telling me how he had fish and he used some of the water and things, and Gray did the interview with Potent Ponic Steve, and we learned a little bit about, kind of some of the mechanics behind that. So I think the fish stuff is real cool, and I that's kind of was the start of the show. I didn't really kind of talk about it today, but our mission here is really refoliate America, get out and spread the word. We want to get power back to the people.
Oh yeah.
Land use and plants and medicines and
He-
foods,
Here's where
things
I
like
think we
that.
have kind of an edge in this industry, for groundbreaking seed group. Scruggs, Twisted Trichomes, and I. We're in it for the passion. We aren't looking at it as let's make $1 billion or we don't have investors behind us saying, hey, you need to make this much money by this time. We're not in any rush. We want to do it right. We want to follow the Lemon Hoko method. We want to do things correctly, and we want to make cannabis better.
Yeah, I'm very
Okay.
medically kind of. I'm highly towards the medical side of. I've had my cancer scare. I've had a tumor, so that's really made me go ham on RSO and concentrates in the medical side. And so my strains have got to be medical and even CBD-ish too.
So was your top three strains, not including Vortex, to the two of you
That's a
for the
hard
lemon
one. Okay,
Hoko?
give me a second to go back into my brain. Okay, Quirkle is up there for sure.
Yeah, Diamond
I
Dave
lean more
says good
sativa,
question, man.
but
He wants to know too.
Quirkle leans
Is there
indica, but
something over time? Do you think weed was better when you were younger? Was there something that changed? I know Chad Westport always talked about that recreational was the fall of medical,
well,
like the
recreational is a
prolification
threat
of
to certain
recreational.
aspects of the cannabis culture. However, it's an inevitable part of legalization is the corporations are going to step in. They are going to try to secure as much power as they can, which nothing that's their goal. But the home grower will always exist regardless of it. So and the home grower has different needs. So it's a completely different market.
Yeah,
Home grower, I hope, is after the flavor of when they smoke it and the high they get off of it, and that's about it. I don't care if my bud personally, I don't care if the bud I send out there looks crappy and has no bag appeal. I'm not doing this for the commercial release. I'm doing this for the quality of the smoke for someone, you know? Someone to sit
yeah.
back, smoke it and go, "Wow."
So
That's
what's your top three to smoke? What do you think would be
third
up there
dimension.
aside
I'll
from the
throw third dimension up there.
Vortex?
Okay,
No,
it's not
Quirkle.
from Tardis.
I'm sorry, I got to choose between either one, Quirkle or Third Dimension. Quirkle. And then there are so many great strains out there that I'm going to offend people by not, if I don't mention them, I know that. No matter how many I name,
So,
someone's getting offended. I know that. But because
is
I've
it
tried
true
so
that
many.
you guys are in a subcool revival band, or
We are a
was that
subcool revival band. That is correct.
was
No, we're not. We just happen. I happen to love Subcool's work. We happen to love Subcool's work. We're
what's up with all the space names and the vortex and the
oh
TARDIS and the
because
Quirkle?
because
Is that a
he got
whole
a hold
theme
of the
to it or something
yeah
like that?
he got a hold of Space Queen by Vic High. And Vic High had developed Space Queen. Subcool got in a hold of it, found a male that passed on candy-like flavors to everything it touched, while maintaining their own flavors. And he bred it with everything. It's the cornerstone of all 98% of his strains. Um, that strain is Space Queen, so everything has to have kind of a space edge.
I see. Well, that's cool.
But
It's cool. You guys
I
gonna
I
keep that going.
absolutely love the euphoria off of Lemon's Blueberry for sure. I can't wait to try his Chem Triple D times Big Sir Holy Weed.
Yeah.
Um,
Are we calling it the Bigfoot's breath? Is that going to be the Bigfoot's breath? Oh, did I wasn't supposed to drop that name. I probably shouldn't have said that.
Yeah,
I it's a little early, but if you want to get excited about some of the projects we're working on, we got. Can we tell them, Twisted, about the?
absolutely. Yeah, go
All
right
right,
ahead, man.
all right. We're in the process of. I am not, but Twisted Trichomes and Scrugs are in the process of reversing a Slimer cut of Chernobyl and using it not only on itself for an S1, which is huge, but on other strains. I sounded like Trump. It's huge. No, but on other strains, um, so that we have some new hybrids. Once they're tested and they're good, we know they're good and they're stable. They'll be out there, and there's going to be some Chernobyl crosses out there from the Slimer cut as the father, and then Vortex crosses as well. Then what I would love to get a hold of, if anyone listening out there wants to help, I'd love to get a hold of a real cut of SFE cut for OG Kush SFE, because San Fernando Valley OG Kush, because Scruggs really would love to work with that strain the way I love working with Vortex.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, he's after that strain for sure, and he's got a lot of wonderful phenotypes, a lot of good cuts to to play with, to reverse and to be pushed pollen on.
Scruggs has been absolutely amazing in all of this. He's the go-getter. He gets shit done. We come up with ideas, and the next week he's like, "Oh, got it all done. We're all set."
Yeah. And Lemon would like to know, I don't know if you guys got the question now, maybe you could read it yourself, but I'll read it out loud. He says he knows Vortex is a big project for you guys. What are the markers that tells you that you are either close to being done or done? What are your goals with the Vortex?
Well, by NF4, we hope to achieve a consistent flavor. Now, there can be some variation, but it needs to have consistent markers of flavor. Such, I want some little bit of sweetness. Twisted wants a little bit of raunchy. Um, Scruggs has his own taste when it comes to the flavors. Then the high. The high needs to be euphoric, highly euphoric. It needs to be stimulating. It has to be. Someone once mentioned Vortex. It feels like it takes your brain out of your head, shakes it around like an etch a sketch, and puts it back in. It's a, what's it called? It's a great high. It's a really euphoric high. Gives you a great mood. Um,
So, are you planning on finding like a cut of it, or I guess you kind of
oh
talked
yeah,
to me about it a little bit. You wanted a male that kind of that was what you were emulating. You kind of wanted a male that would touch,
I
the
want to.
strains and kind of impart
I
what you
want to do
wanted
like
to do.
Subcool did. I'm a huge fan of the results of his work. Um, I want to do like he did, and I want to find that great vortex the way he found Vic High's Space Queen, and I want to take Subcool's Vortex. That we, a wise man, Lemon Hoko, once said, "Do not choose your males. Do not select your males. Breed your males." And what I want to do is create a male of Vortex that is the trait that is locked down the traits that I want to
What do you mean?
pass forward.
So what do you mean? You wanna breed a male instead of select a male?
Correct. Instead of going through what's there or someone else's work and saying, "Oh, this male should work," say, "You know what? These are the traits I want in my male." Instead of saying this male might work and then testing it to see if it has the traits and it's good enough to use, feed
Mhm.
those traits into the next generation so those traits are consistent, and then take those consistent traits, and then you can select a male that you're confident is going to pass on what its sisters have.
Okay. And can you kind of maybe walk us through? Do you do some kind of in crossing? I know you guys were kind of teaching me what an in cross was.
Yeah, it is an in
When you
cross.
when you're trying to lock in some sort of trade, so you're gonna maybe uh take it in breed a brother sister. Is that an in
Oh,
cross
absolutely.
or?
Absolutely. You want to do is you take the F1s, which are the first generation from two completely different parents. In this case, Space Queen is the father, Space Dude, and the mother is Apollo 13. So they bred together. They made Vortex F1s. We take those Vortex F1s, brothers and sisters. We breed them together, the best ones, best males with the best females that we can from our selection, and we get F2s. We take the brothers and sisters of F2s that are layering in the traits we're looking for. In this case, it's the I lucked out. This grow I'm doing is doing terrible. I've had issues. Nothing bad, all my own doing, all very amateur stuff, but it's led to and a trip I had to take for 10 days. It's led to
uh,
irreparable damage to many of the plants. However, the ones that are still thriving,
oh,
despite all it's been through, I have out of the 11 vortex plants, I have 4 or 5 of them that are absolutely taking the abuse and completely remaining strong, yielding strong, looking healthy. One of which I absolutely have fallen for. It is the stinky. It is so smelly with a sweet candy edge. And it's a nice yielder. It's not the highest yielder, but it's so sticky and gooey that it's going to make an amazing mother to the next generation of Vortex.
yeah, I think you guys got a real great project going on, and I really love to see things like that because I really do feel like a lot of things were lost, and that's why I love seeing guys like Lemon hanging on to things, and High Desert has maybe some older seeds, some of the guys that are on here. And big shout out to everybody that's on the Discord. I know Central Ohio has got a lot of some of the good old boys out there, got a lot of good stuff. But I think keeping something around like that, and helping the next generation out a little bit, because you got a whole generation. What do they say? A sucker is born every minute, and that's what these guys are betting on with their big money. You know,
That's the problem. Once you get money behind it, there's pressure to show a profit at a certain time by certain stages. And to achieve that, you have to cut corners, rush things. You have to make sure your product will sell on the market. Not that your product is good on the market, but that it will sell, bag appeal, yield, etc. Um, and it makes no sense for them to focus on potency, type of high, or it doesn't make economic sense to waste that time.
yeah,
So the
and
home grower will always have an advantage. Now, dispensary wheat can be superior to a home grower, yes, but home growers have the advantage in what they can breed for in quality.
and it's a monetary advantage too. It's almost like taking control of your own finances, especially in some states. I mean, sometimes it might be cheaper to go ahead and buy some product depending on your use. But if you're smoking 5, 10 joints a day, like it's not feasible to go and buy it. And I'll tell you, here in Illinois, we got radio ads talking about, oh, get a medical license so you can pay less for weed. And then there's billboards selling, oh, we got cannabis coming and buy it at the dispensary. At the same time where you're still under the thumb of, you know, I don't know, regulations, whatever you want to call it. They just kind of keep the hammer over us for when they want to use it. But anyways,
It seems it seems like this election cycle is no, I don't want to get into politics, but marijuana is
no.
a major part. It's a major part of this coming cycle, and there's a lot of politicians who seem to be saying, if you vote for me, I'll legalize it later.
Yeah, the same people that have been putting people in jail for 50 years when they were a senator and vice
Yep,
president
yep,
or whatever.
exactly.
But is that something that helps you keep your passion? I think we had a question from Lemon. Well, how do you keep your passion? You sound very into what you're doing, and what motivates that?
It's not it springs from my love for this plant. Like I said, there's so much about this plant, the smell, the flavor. I mean, without my ability to really eat like I used to, I was a big eater, but I can't satisfy that way. However, I can feel satisfaction from smoking this cannabis, which is not harming me, and it's actually benefiting my life, as long as I'm not at work. So I like to relax because when I smoke, I like to relax and kick back. I like to chat. I like to do whatever I want to do. When I'm at work, I got to do what someone else's priorities are, you know? So I got to be focused. But I absolutely love this plant because it also connects me with not only with people 250,000 years ago, growing it and breeding it to bring us what we have today in all these regions, but the people of the future. We get to put our hands into what they're smoking. We get to direct our flavors onto the market so that down the line, we know that our taste is being shared by people hundreds of years from now.
Yeah, and I think one of the problems is how many people that are smoking right now. And no offense to anybody, but they say, "Oh, I'm smoking because it's legal," you know. And really, the openness to medicine. And this is something that Lemon was kind of chit-chatting about maybe a couple weeks ago. It was about the medicinal back in the day. It started with maybe cancer patients, terminally ill patients, kind of using this cannabis and some of the medicinal effects that were coming out. Seizures, I've had seizures in the past, and the true medicinal, aspect of it is being totally whitewashed right now by capitalization. Thank you, High Desert. Capitalization is not legalization, you know,
That
but
is true.
yeah,
I want to see mom and pops at the see people are cannabis right now is a very profitable industry. Hopefully, it remains that way. I'm in it whether it does or doesn't.
yeah, it's interesting like
If
that,
I got a
man. I
billion
mean, but
dollars tomorrow, I'd be doing this.
yeah,
Yeah. Yep. Same here.
Yeah, you can't
yeah,
just pay your way to the awesome stuff that you like.
Cap Future, welcome, brother.
Yeah,
But yeah, I
that's why
appreciate
I think
everybody hopping on, man.
Irie Grower, Harley Quinn. Have I ever thought about breeding a CBD Harley Quinn? I love THC. CBD is not my bag. It's a great product, but it's not psychoactive, so it's not as appealing to me. So to breed for it is it kind of goes against my search for that euphoric high. It pulls away the volume of that high.
So what about are we gonna see a fem line of the vortex? I think I kind of wanted to ask you about fems and
It's
autoflowers a little
possible.
bit.
It's possible. I can foresee down the line when we have three different F3s and we have our favorite keepers from each of our F3s. Twisted Trichomes is F3, Scruggs is F3, and my F3. I can see two of those being compatible enough that we can feminize one or reverse one of them and actually create some feminized seeds. I don't see that and make F4s of feminized seeds that'll have the hybrid vigor. That might be, I don't see that not happening. Like it's such a every all the parts are will be there. I don't see why we wouldn't do that, but we have no direct plans to do it yet.
Yeah.
but I don't
So
see why we
maybe
wouldn't.
using that as a tool at some point in the project, like, hey, we can solve this one, and kind of maybe hone something in. I mean, what happens when you go through a feminization? Are we pushing things into a corner with that? Is that
Yeah,
kind of something we
a
need to watch out for?
Yeah, okay. People will say it's argued right now. There's no science backing either side. So, okay, maybe there is, and I haven't seen it. But I like working with regs. I prefer to work with regs. I have found in my experience, mainly from using Subcool's gear, that when I switched to reg seeds from feminized seeds in my early growing, I discovered that I got better results from the reg seeds. The females from the reg seeds, for some reason, always were more terpy. They were better. Could have been luck of the draw. Could have been just luck of the draw. But that was my experience, and so I've I want to make sure I'm working with reg seeds, even though that's not what the market's demanding. I want to make sure they're available. I want to make sure that other people have access to be able to create without having to resort to feminization every time or reversing.
Sense to the genetic. Yeah. Um. Oh man, you guys are doing such a good job. You kind of threw me off
Yeah.
there.
And
But
I'm into the reducing.
I wanted to ask something about FEMS or regs. I know it was along those lines. High Desert says, "How about a purple Urkel times Space Queen rework?" Oh,
Oh,
that
that would
sounds
be
good.
amazing. If I would love to get my hands on purple Urkel. I got some purple Urkel
Oh,
S1s. I got some
you
purple
know what
Urkel
it was,
BX3s.
Tardis? I didn't mean to interrupt you, but we always kind of talk about maybe a little bit about DNA here, because DNA likes to retain diversity. So maybe being able to make seeds is a genetic benefit. So when I kind of look at hermaphroditism, I kind of look at it on like a scale almost, where you kind of can have bananas or male flowers or full blown hermaphrodites. Um, but I think it's interesting how it might pop up in nature. I mean, what if there's a whole field of females and no male? It would almost be
Correct.
advantageous to make pollen at that point. So I was
Correct.
kind of
So
wondering if you had some insight. Let me just say one more thing, kind of on that chemical process a little bit of how they're using silver, and maybe I don't know how that might relate to nature a little bit. If you've had any thoughts about that.
Well, here's the thing. All cannabis plants have that hermaphroditic gene in them. There was a period of time in its history when all of feminized seeds were all that was around and all that passed the genes forward that we have today. They all carry that gene. That's why colloidal silver works on them when they stress. But most plants, what you want to do is find a plant that doesn't herm when you stress it, that you're having a hard time making herm. Then you use colloidal silver, force it to herm, and then you ensure that the offspring, you don't ensure, but you have a better chance that the offspring doesn't carry with it very much of that hermy trait. So you can have,
Okay. So, is there something in breeding? I kind of heard a few people mentioning it, maybe some sort of percentage. So I don't know. Do you have you done any testing on your seeds? And is there like a protocol, like when you look at your seeds, like okay, maybe if half of them go intersex, that's too many. But maybe if 10% of them do, maybe that's something that can be bred out.
hmm um, yeah. In fact, I think people should put on the labels what the intersex rate is. That should, I mean, be an honest number, just so people can know. Okay, 5% will herm. All right, I can play with that. Or someone says 20% will herm. All right, I can work with that. I know what they're going for, so I might want to stabilize it myself. That's that I think back to the regs real quick. I think the reason I love regs is because you give a lot more power to the breeder, to the next breeder. I love regs because I want to be able to breed with them if I like them. Um, regs give a lot of power to the consumer, and that's the reason why most breeders don't like them. Most breeders like to keep their genetics to themselves. They don't want other people working with their paints, painting the next great piece without them. Whereas I'm a firm believer of I want what's best for the plant. I want what's best for this plant's interaction with humanity. And that means making sure the seeds are out there, making sure that people have access to them, making sure that people who want to move forward and do their own work with our work can do so.
Well, I think that kind of begs the question, like maybe there is no perfect medicine. It's going to vary person to person. So someone might almost like your work. They would just maybe need it to have their own little paintbrush mark on it.
Exactly.
So that's where giving you access to the reg line may be more beneficial than the fem line. I mean, I've heard it argued that, oh, I don't got a lot of space. I just want to run fems.
And
There's nothing wrong with stuff like that. We're just kind of talking about breeding practices here, maybe.
yeah, and in the end,
Lem said you have to be very careful in your selection when you're doing these types of things.
Right, grower and breeder.
it's very easy for someone who doesn't know what they're doing to make very hermaphroditic offspring pass forward from femmes. If the person doesn't do stress testing on the cuts before they actually use the colloidal silver, if they just go for it and see what happens, odds are it'll be a hermaphrodite. Or not odds are it'll be a hermaphrodite, but the odds are up, but that they'll see a lot of hermaphroditic tendencies in the plants that come out of that.
Okay, so when we talk about hermaphroditic tendencies, one thing I think that has gone under the radar is the male. Have you seen any male intersex traits in your plants or heard anything about the breeding of those?
I've had good luck with with the males I've had. I have not seen. I've heard of other people seeing males that hermaphrodite and throw up female flowers on their own. Um, I personally have never seen it. I've had good luck. So from my perspective, yeah, males are a lot more stable. Um, yeah,
Yeah, I think it's
I
interesting.
trust
So
Rex more.
because when you look at, the XX of a female or the XY, I think cannabis kind of works like humans like that, where it has that sex related to that chromosome. Somebody, correct me if I'm wrong. But when you have, an XY that would not go intersex, and I guess people have, pictures and photographs of this stuff. So I'm not saying males don't harm. I'm pretty sure people have seen,
Yeah, males have
you
that gene
know,
too.
it's interesting though. So how it would impact the next genetic, like if you went from a hermaphroditic male, I guess you want to wean that trait out just as much as possible, whether it's on either side of
Absolutely,
the genome.
absolutely. On either side, you want to eliminate that.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
don't want unintentional seeds. That's what it comes down to. Unintentional
right.
crosses that get out there. Get it? I mean, it's funny enough. A lot of our great strains come from accidents, from accidental pollinations, like Gorilla Glue #4. Its history is basically a plant hermed, hit another plant. They went, oh, screw it, let's grow the seeds, and it turned out to be good. It turned out to be really good.
Interesting. So you think Gorilla Glue 4 is just one of those plants that, or even regardless, it might throw a
Gorilla Glue
few
4 is a
bananas.
mistake. It never should have existed. Nobody tried to breed it. It
Mhm.
happened by accident, and it became something huge. So I'm not sitting here saying there's only one way to find greatness in cannabis, but I am saying if you want to be the director of that greatness in cannabis, you want to literally paint it yourself so that you have what you like, not just something good. Then you have to put in the work. You have to actually know what you're looking at. You have to know what to expect and then test it and see how you're wrong and then know how to work from there.
Yeah.
I think one of the hardest mill traits that I found that I battle is just root bind. If you put them in 1 gallon pots, give them a little while, you'll have them under 18 hours and they'll just start flipping. They'll start making pollen sacs. Uh,
Oh,
so
wow.
yeah, I find that a lot with males more than I find them trying to flip into females or be hermaphrodism. So I
Okay, they'll kind of flower kind of early, maybe. Okay.
that's what I that's the worst trait I find with a lot of males. So I try and weed them out that way. Like I had like 8 of them in one gal's under 18 hours, and they just started flowering, man. They just started throwing sacks. And so I separated them. Then a couple weeks later, I flipped the lights, and one held out in a 1 gallon, and then it flipped when I. So that's what I really, that's what I find a lot of problem with the males is they're not holding out until you flip the lights. A lot of these damn males will just root bind and they'll start throwing pollen sacks and they won't wait. So I like finding males that'll wait. Uh, that's the trait that I find. That's one of the worst traits I find in males.
Yeah, so that's kind of getting into which male is going to kind of show its head first. Maybe you're not picking that one. So you're kind of talking about after the flip. You're not talking about in veg, right?
Yeah, well, just making one stay in veg, a male that'll actually stay in veg. A lot of males, they'll just finally root bound and show their males. Like
Okay.
let's say you got your bedroom going and you don't plan on flipping for flower for another month, but your males are already going crazy. It's 18 hours and they're busting out pollen sacs. They're pissed off.
Do you think the males grow a little bit taller than the females? Is that kind of a way you can kind of tell, like, man, this
I've noticed
one's
that,
like,
but I've been mistaken before. I've been like, that's definitely a male, and then female, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, it's all over the place for me, I'd say still.
yeah. Lemon says most legends are mistakes. Hey, perfection is only a series of small changes. So
And that's what I want to do because we have been breeding this plant for 250,000 years. It's nothing like it was when we first found it in nature. Nothing near it. Like the way we bred humans took wolves and bred dogs out of them. All the dogs in the world today, all the different types, all came from wolves because humans were doing selective breeding. The same thing happened with cannabis, and in all these different regions where cannabis has its land races, those land races were created by humans who put their hands on this plant and made sure it went in certain directions. I want to be part of that. You know what I mean? I want to be part of. I want my hands to be involved in the plants that will be that'll be evolving into what they smoke in 300 years.
yeah, I think selection too. I mean, the pros and the cons of it, because I wanna. What my gut kind of tells me is that when people are doing selections, they select for the eye and the biggest one and the best one, or this or that, and maybe some of the finer things kind of goes under the table. Especially this world that we live in that just kind of wants things so fast and here and now. Especially with a commodity like the plant. And I don't know, even dogs, like you select for the colors and things like that, they look like. Well, maybe I would think that, I don't know, Lemon probably has something to chime in at me about that one. He kind of schooled me on that last week, anyways.
And what is the next question? I think both of our edibles have kicked in a little while ago.
Yeah, we're coming up to about an hour here. We covered the vortex, a little bit about how you got into growing,
We're doing the Slimer
about
crosses.
breeding. Okay, we had a few crosses come up. I really wanted to know. I think he was talking about your two favorite strains, the Cuvée and the something else. What is it?
I love the Quirkle. I honestly have not smoked enough Cuvée to say how much I love it or don't. I'm still waiting on that. Um, you know what I've absolutely shout out what I absolutely loved that I grew recently? Duke Diamond's Vault. C99 times Vortex. Of course, I love it. It's got Vortex and it's got C99, and I love sweet things. But my God, the flavor on it, I only have like a couple nugs left, and I'm savoring them. I have smoked through it. It's so good.
So that's a Duke Diamond cross. Which one was that?
That is the Duke Diamond Cross C99 times Vortex. I have in flower, because of how good it is, I have in flower right now his Space Queen version 2, which is a feminized version of Space Queen using C99 and Romulan, a different, I think this, a different Romulan or something like that. A female Romulan, I believe. I could be wrong. And then I in veg have his Killuminati, which will be very interesting.
Yeah, I kind of started hearing about Duke Diamond's genetics a little bit, but I haven't really got to run too many of those. I guess I'm
They're
gonna have
fire,
to. I
very
guess I'm
strong.
gonna have to wait a little bit. I'm on his server on here. Maybe I'll have to check it out.
Every
I don't
Friday
know.
night.
Maybe
Every Friday night, check
they
out
do
Duke Diamond
Friday
server,
nights.
the Dominion
Yeah.
seed server here on Discord. Every Friday night, that room is empty. There's nobody in it. Nobody's ever in it during the week, but Friday night, you got 100 people in there. It's craziness. It's great.
Yeah. Are you doing the collab with Duke?
Send us a
Um,
link.
Tardis Duke Diamond collab?
No, not at this time. Duke is I'm telling you, Duke is an amazing human being. He is the most helpful and giving human being. He is I have mad respect for Duke Diamond and all that he does because I've witnessed how he helps people. I know people he has secret collabs with right now who are just fans of his that he was like, "You're cool. Here you go. Let's do a collab. Don't say anything." And I just happened to be in the right place at the right time to notice it. And yeah, he's just an amazing human being, a very giving person with his fame and his skills and his you can ask him a question about anything, he'll give you a straight answer. What's the best Vortex male? Oh, well, after hundreds of Vortex males, I found the best one is the one that looks like this, has internode spacing like this,
So,
has
so
he's amazing.
Diamond runs a lot of the subcool gear. Is that what I'm kind of getting out of this?
No, Subcool ran a lot of Brothers Grimm gear. Duke Diamond worked for Brothers Grimm being a breeder.
Okay, so he was a breeder for Brothers
So
Grimm.
it's not so easy as Subcool. He's ripping off Subcool. No, Subcool and he came from the same pond.
Ah, interesting. And Brothers Grimm, was that C99? I think Graybeard had a
Correct. C9.
C99 times Turban tie or something.
Oh yeah, I love C99 Hooli.
Yeah, he
Oh,
said it was one of his best plants. It was amazing.
oh yeah. Oh, we got the corn going. Internet corn.
But yeah, Tardis, I appreciate you coming on. Everybody, thanks for coming out. We can sit and chit chat a little bit longer. I don't know if we have any more questions coming from the chat on here. But I'd love to chat with you a little bit more, like we said, about the commercial versus home.
Absolutely.
Um, I kind of was wondering about your breeding and pollen cross contamination getting in there. Is there any kind of preventative measure you take for that, or do you guys have to put on a certain type of protective
So
clothing
yeah,
coming into the
I I
grow?
go I go into the grow. First thing I do is I hit the locker room. I grab a fresh pair of scrubs. I rip them out of their plastic little containers. I put on pants, shirt, the shoes they give me at work, the boots they give me, the non-slip boots. I put on a
Yeah,
face mask. I put on a hat with a hairnet, a lemon hoko hat, and I scrubbed up, covered up, step out of there, spray myself down with alcohol, with isopropyl alcohol. Then go in and then before going to each flower room, I spray myself down with isopropyl alcohol, put on fresh gloves, a face mask, all that stuff. So there's a lot of preventative measures we take, and for me, if I'm going into work, it's a work day, I don't check on my plants that are flowering before I go to work, and I shower, I get changed, and I head there. So there's preventative measures on all sides.
well, yeah. I guess I've never been into. I've never really been into a dispensary. Well, I've been into one, and it was straight boof. I'm never going back. What do you think about the quality coming out of the dispensaries? And do you guys pull quick and dry quick and get it out quick, like I always say you do, or is there a little more care being taken there?
Well, where I work, it's I'm lucky. Where I work, the weed is amazing. I'm not just saying that. We're hitting like the top of the state. We are killing it. Our home office in Florida is coming over to going. You guys are killing it. We can't really do much for you. We need you to show us for other places what you're doing. So so I'm lucky to be in the right company. But it's as I said, there are limits to how good weed can be in a dispensary. It can be extremely good. Don't get me wrong. Our weed is amazing. However, the home grower has the advantage, like I said, because they can grow weed that is not limited to the strains that only had yield or had bag appeal.
Okay, so what about this side of it? So what about when you have to process, we were talking about harvesting. What do you think is the best time, or what have you found to be the best time to harvest your weed?
My time to harvest the weed is when it's about 5% amber. 5%. I want the maximum. Now, this could be different according to how milky it is. The maximum milkiness is what I'm going for. That's the THC. That's not the CBN. That's the pure THC. I want that THC.
And what about the time when so when you get to that day or that couple days where you're kind of getting there, is there a time of day?
I do it usually early, and that's just because I figure it doesn't really. I don't really put a need on when I do it. I used to do a 24 hours of darkness before I would do it, and I mean the weed was good, but I don't really know if it had an effect or if the weed was always good.
Okay,
So
so you can put it in 24 hours of
I
darkness.
I
Yeah,
kind
I've
of
done
go
that before.
I don't do that anymore. What I do is I let it have its 12 hours of sleep, and then as early as I can when the lights turn on, I open it up and I start harvesting.
So at the dispensary, when do you guys are you kind of go in
The
before the lights come
dispensary,
on? It
okay,
takes
here
like a whole day. How does that work?
no, it takes a couple days. I've seen it
Takes a
take up
couple
to a
days.
week. You have to understand there's like 2,000 plants in the room.
Mm,
So the lights are going on during the day. So the lights go on and they start pulling them and cutting them and hanging them and dragging them out on racks to go out there to be harvested. Uh, they have to keep doing this throughout the entire day. So some strains are getting the first round, some strains are getting the next round. Here's another problem with dispensary weed, and this is a hurdle they can't get past. This is another thing that gives an advantage to you, the home grower. They have to harvest according to a calendar, sometimes the week 8, sometimes week 9. But when it is harvest time, they have, what, 10 strains in the same room, 2,000 plants. They have to actually harvest them all according to the date, not according to the trichomes, not according to the finishing, not according to
yeah.
anything other than it's the date to harvest. So they don't get the optimum. Now, some will argue that's such a minor difference, but there's a difference and it's noticeable.
So another thing I was kind of thinking about the dispensaries, they have to transport that weed for some type of testing too. So there's a delay maybe from when you harvest to when you get to the customer. And think of it, what if they
Correct.
package it up in an eighth or a gram? You're telling me you're going to keep a gram of weed fresh in a little jar. You know what I mean? As soon as you put it in there,
Oh,
it's
there's
going to
no
go.
jars. There's no jars. We're talking turkey
Okay.
bags at this point. It's all turkey bags. They can't do
Uh,
jars. At this scale, jars do not make sense. So you have to jars are no longer part of the equation. Another thing that gives advantages to the home grower. Um, yeah, it's a whole different animal, and you're right. It's like 3 months between chopping it and it getting to the store for sale. There's a long wait because there's a lot that has to get done, as you mentioned. So the dispensaries, I am not like I said, you can get fantastic weed from dispensaries. Like out here, I don't know if I should say names, but there's some really good dispensaries. The place I work, luckily, we have really really good stuff. They give me an eighth every 2 weeks. So because I work there, they give everyone who works there, as long as you are doing good work, an eighth every 2 weeks. Um,
Yeah.
so I do wind up smoking our weed, and I like my weed better, but I love their weed. It's great. And by my weed, I mean weed that I've selected and chosen and gone through so many seeds to say, this is the one I must grow now.
So where does your guys' growing process come from? I don't know if you can tell us what you guys are exactly up to or how you grow, but does
At
it come
work,
from just basic ag? Yeah.
at work, everything is it's all emitters, it's all hydro, it's all. We have a Paragon machine, which is a massive machine with giant vats of different chemicals, or not chemicals, of nutrients that are different nutrients in these giant vats, and this computer system, they go in, they tell it what zone to go to. So there's 2 zones in each of the 8 flower rooms, as well as the zones in the veg rooms and the zones in the clone rooms. They have to regulate each time because they when to send to each zone and room, so this computer can handle sending the water through the pipes, through the building from A to B. It's a big to do, but it's all just the system that's completely controlled by this computer system.
Yeah,
Now,
kind of like a fertigation machine. Do you guys use a specific type of or brand of fertilizers, or is there a formulation or mix that?
we use Athena.
Okay, so you're running the Athena, the Pro
We
line.
started off with General Hydroponics, but since I've been there, we switched everything to Athena.
Is that the Pro line?
Correct, the Pro line.
And you're using the full line?
Yes.
I have the full thing.
Big
Wow.
vats, and I'm talking a room full of vats. It's pretty
Wow.
cool. But yeah, it's
So what kind of problems do you run into maybe on your day to day? Do you get clogged emitters and things like that? Or
oh
maybe
yeah, you get
something's
yeah,
overwatered,
cl
something's underwatered,
clogged emitters
something's
happen.
leaking over here.
Things get underwater. We have to check each room. We got, so we every morning we got to check 4,000 plants if you're on, and you have to go through, check the room, make sure that the plants are all getting adequate water, lift up a few, make sure they're not, make sure they're not too light or overly heavy, or in case something's wrong with the watering system. But usually everything is okay. Sometimes plants will be under areas that might drip and it might ruin the plant, so that's not good because of dehumidifier. We need such great machines throughout the building just to maintain here in Arizona, maintain the adequate environmentals. But none of that is my
The
job.
humidity, yeah.
My job is simple. I get my hands on the plants. I transplant plants to rooms. I check on the rooms. I make sure the lights are all working. I pluck a lot of
Are you
leaves.
guys running a mixed lighting too, or is it just HPS or LED?
Oh, the lights are amazing there. That's, I think, one of the keys as to why we're doing so well. They use FOS lights, FOHSE, FOS.
Is that a brand or is that
It's a
it's a
brand.
type of lighting?
It's a brand. It's an
Okay.
LED light. They run about $4,000 a piece. They have 80 to 100 in each flower room.
Well, is that what you got at home too? You put a pose up at the
No,
house?
no, no. It's too big, too powerful. I
Oh
have.
yeah, it's like it's
I'm
some kind of
already playing
commercial
with
one.
more power than I need. I'm using a HLG um HLG 650R Diablo. That thing is just a
Oh, you got the
beast. It's a
Diablo.
beast.
Yeah,
It's a
beautiful.
beast. I don't.
Are
I've
you running
froze
it? What are you running at? 50%, 75%?
right now 50% just because I've been having heat issues personally. Like I said, it's been a really rough round this round.
I mean, and you make seeds too. So when you're making seeds for a flowering
Correct.
plant, do you run the same type of fertigation mix, or is that different if you're growing for
I do it the
Sensimelia
same.
or
I do it
for
the same.
seeded?
Personally, I do it the same. I'm not advanced enough yet to do it differently. I'm sure I'm not. There's something I need to learn, and I will learn it. But as of right now, I treat it the same. Yeah, CalMag, solution to all plant problems. Yeah.
Yeah, Huli and Green Bean are in here having a good old time. Yeah, everybody in the chat, man, thank you. Tardis, I know you enlightened a lot of people about your breeding projects and about everything. I just wanted to kind of give a little wrap up here and really give my tagline, which is ban the booth. Anybody out there who smoke booth, we know we don't want booth. That's what the home grow is about. That's what projects like Tardises are about. But yeah, this was a great episode.